Hey guys, welcome back. This is Evan Hunter with Hunter Design Company, and today we're going to do a quick walkthrough on this beautiful pecan ocean sofa table that we're making. And we are going to be using mass epoxies for this pour. You can see I am pouring the part A right now, and we'll be mixing part B. This is a 1-to-1 ratio for the mass epoxies, and this is my favorite epoxy to make this ocean effect with. As you'll see here coming up shortly, this epoxy, after many, many different attempts with other epoxies, seems to be the best at creating this lacing effect that you get when you do these ocean tables. So you can see here that I'm adding the part B to the mixture. And with the mass epoxy, you want to use a stir stick. You don't want to use a drill bit that you commonly see in a lot of these epoxy videos. Uh, those tend to create a lot of air bubbles that make it harder to get out of your project. This one's simple. Just use a stir stick. It's about 5 minutes or so of stirring. You can really tell the difference in the epoxy when it starts to become one as you mix it together. And you'll see for this project I separated out 4 different containers of epoxy. That is for your white, your clear, and 2 different blues. The white and the clear go into smaller containers because I don't need nearly as much. And you'll see right here, this is where I use the clear as my initial pour to show where the waves are going to be. And then I go back in with a second layer right behind that initial wave to give a little bit of extra room where the white can live, because you're going to want to pour that white wave right on top of that clear, and I'll show you why here in a little bit. So now that I'm mixing my blues, you'll want one blue to be a lighter blue and the other blue to be a darker blue. And the lighter blue is what you're going to pour first, and you want it to ride right up against that clear edge. Uh, with some gaps, some missteps is okay there, because what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up blending all these blues and clears together. So the second pour, you want that to be a little bit darker. So I added a liquid blue dye in addition to my powder, and that is going to take up the majority of the back, so you're going to want more of that darker blue than you will of the lighter blue. And I actually didn't have quite enough. As you see, I'm start to pat this together and blend them, but not having enough is okay, and I'll tell you why here towards the end. But what you want to do is you want to start from the edge of the wave to the back. So you're going to mix those clear and the light blue together, and then you're going to move on to the light blue and the dark blue and blending those together. And the reason you want to do this is it makes it look more natural as you're building this oceanscape. And you can see there's not quite enough. I like to get the back edge a little more, but that's not a big deal because we have a second pour that we're going to do anyway. So we'll get that back edge covered no matter what. So after you have all the blues blended together, you're going to mix up your white, and like I said, it doesn't take a lot, and we're just going to slowly hit the edge of that wave. So I like to start my drip off the side so I can run it on and make a smooth transition onto the actual piece. And as you pour it, you want to do your best to keep a steady hand and follow that wave as smoothly as possible without having to retrace any of your steps if you can avoid it. And the reason for that is you can always go back in later and add more white, but you're making a smooth layer that will allow it to blow and look more natural. So here I'm going back, I'm touching up a couple little spots that I missed, and you absolutely can do this, but you can see here, right as I get here, there's a little bit of a wiggle line there, and it'll just look better and smoother overall if you get that the first time. Not to say that it can't be fixed, it's just a lot easier and looks better in the end. And you can see it's kind of getting nitpicky, but you can see once I start to blow dry this or heat gun it that you can tell where your hand was not steady. So now here's the fun part. This is where we get out the heat gun, and there is definitely a learning curve to this. It looks pretty simple when you look at it doing a video. You're simply blowing the wave back, right? Um, but it's not quite that easy. The edge where the white is, you want to make sure that you're not pushing all of that back, that you're leaving a little bit of an edge so that there's still a defined line where that wave is. So you want to make sure you're right on top of it, but not blowing all of it back, so you can still get a little definition of your wave on your piece. Um, a lot of people say you should never go back over your waves. I don't mind doing it, especially on the first wave run. So if you're doing multiple waves like I am in this particular project, most of that first wave is going to get covered up by the second wave anyway. And the other technique that is kind of crucial to making these waves really pop is when you're using your heat gun after you've gone through and you've done your initial blowback, you will want to go over it with the gun at a 90-degree angle, and I'll show that here shortly. But what that 90-degree angle accomplishes is it really brings out that lacing, and that lacing effect is what really makes these tables pop. So yes, it will do it if you just blow at the initial time like I'm doing here. You're going to get some of that lacing, but when you go back on it and you really hit it with that 90 degrees, it's going to separate the epoxy that's sitting on top. And make sure you get your edges too. I like to get the edge to really give that full featured effect so there's not just a big globby drip sitting on the side of your project. And you can see here I'm going back over right at the kind of wave line, and I'm hitting it at a 90-degree angle so that I can really bring out that lacing. And then of course your final step after you've blown all your waves back is to torch it. This makes sure you get all the bubbles, even the ones that were in the back. I just do a light, quick one coat, boom, and you're done. So there's what you're looking at with your first wave. And the second wave is going to be a lot of the same, so I can kind of speed that up for you here. But before I do that, I wanted to note this. I used pink gloves this time. It wasn't my normal glove, and because of those gloves, if you saw on the tips, they didn't fit my hand well. So when I went to do the spreading of the epoxy this time around, it was becoming very difficult because I didn't have the precision that I needed. So always wear gloves that fit you correctly. It was just a stupid mistake I made that didn't really end up messing up the project, but it was kind of an annoyance when I was trying to do this. So we got our clear down, we got our blue down. One thing I didn't note that is kind of a trick that I like to use. You can see I'm pouring in my basement because it's Ohio and it's freezing cold, and this epoxy will not cure in my garage. So I moved it inside, and a little trick that I've learned is to add glitter to your epoxy. So I add it to everything except the clear and the white. So both the blues have glitter in them. And what that glitter does, other than make the ocean look sparkly, but it also helps you if you don't have a completely enclosed, secure, covered space where little dust mites and little dust particles are going to float into your epoxy. Once those are in there, they're in there. If it's cured at all, it's not coming out. So the glitter keeps those kind of things from becoming imperfections. Uh, it allows you to not have to worry about if a little piece of dust falls in. So it's not going to look like a perfect piece of glass anymore. And not only is that okay because the glitter gives it a different kind of pop, but it also allows you to not have to worry about little minor imperfections. They completely disappear in the project. You never see them. And I had mentioned earlier that I had run short of epoxy and I didn't get that back edge covered the way I wanted to. And as you can see with this second wave, that makes no difference at all. It's not a big deal because I had plenty of extra epoxy to make sure the back got covered appropriately. Hit it with your heat gun, hit it with your torch, and there it is. And then finally, one of my favorite steps, adding the finish. So I started on the back and put Walrus Oil's furniture butter, and then I flipped it over and hit the top. You want to be careful not to use the scratch pad on the epoxy itself, and then take a nice terry cloth and wipe off any of that excess oil. And then I just hit the live edge front on it, and it's ready for its legs. Now I didn't get any video of me installing the legs, but they're just hairpin legs, 3 screws apiece. And there's my brand, and here's the final product. And this can work as a small desk or a sofa runner or an entryway table. Lots of possibilities here. Thanks for checking out my video, guys. I appreciate it. And if you got any questions, drop them down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks a lot, guys.